Yeah,
Okay, the Warren Newport Public Library District provides the community with access to information, kindles the imagination of children and adults, and supports lifelong learning. Would anyone like to speak in public comment?
Yo, I don't want to speak in public comment, but I want to just roll call because we have
Oh, yeah, sure. Go for it. Thank you.
Arnold,
Here.
Beckwith,
Here.
Farcapisi,
Here.
Hamilton,
Here.
Kotsinis, absent, Sutton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank
Ryan
you.
and I talked about this, and we weren't sure about it, so I'm glad you knew what to do. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, any correspondence?
No, we don't have correspondence.
Okay, we're on to the consent agenda. I'm going to remove item 2A, executive session minutes, and item D, patron suggestions. Would anyone else like to remove something else?
Could you repeat which ones are you removing?
A2, exec session minutes for December 14th,
Okay,
and B, patron suggestions.
thank you.
Okay, let's see. I move that the consent agenda be approved as amended.
I second it.
Any discussion? We have to have a roll call for everything, Gina.
Okay. Arnold,
Aye.
Hamilton,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
absent. Oh, he's here. Just he's here.
I had a little trouble joining.
You got just in time.
7:04, Gina.
Okay, thank you. Farcapisi,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
I have it.
Okay, so we had the aha moment that we couldn't really show the exec session minutes in this format, so we'll have to wait till we're back face to face or come up with another solution. So unless someone has another idea of how to do it. The D that I removed, patron suggestions, has a typo. I don't know if everyone saw the change that Ryan sent. You want to explain it, Ryan?
Yeah, basically, somehow we missed the word not. What I sent out said we do currently have plans to create a separate section for these items. We do not currently have plans.
Okay, so any questions, discussions on that? I move that patron suggestions for December 2021 be approved as amended.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Who's
Okay.
second?
I'm sorry.
Andrea.
Thank you.
Are we doing the roll call? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that last thing you said.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Farcapisi,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Hamilton,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
Eyes have it.
So, on to the resolution. I noticed when I was reading my packet that there's a typo in it, which is now therefore be it resolved. It's supposed to be in the past, or it's supposed to have a D at the end. So I'm going to, does everyone see that?
No.
Now,
see,
therefore be it resolved.
Oh, in the resolution. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna move that resolution 2021-22-4 to appoint Celeste Flores to fill the trustee vacancy until the next regular election in April 2023 be approved as amended.
I'll second.
I'm sorry.
Okay, who wants to claim that one?
Go ahead.
Catherine.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any discussion? Have the roll call.
Hamilton,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Farcapisi,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Beckwith,
Aye.
ayes have it.
Okay. Oh, Bonnie, you're up.
Okay, so Celeste, I have a question before we do the official oath. You have a choice. You can solemnly swear or you can affirm. Which would you prefer?
I'll affirm.
Okay. Are you ready? Okay. You want to put your hand, we can't put our, okay, we'll pretend. I, Celeste Flores, having been appointed to the office of trustee
I, Celeste Flores, being appointed to the office of trustee
for the Warren Newport Public Library District
for the Warren Newport Public District
in the state of Illinois,
in the state of Illinois,
in the county of Lake aforesaid,
in the county of Lake Forsyth,
do affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of library trustee
the duties of the office of library of trustee
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Yay.
Welcome
Yeah.
to the,
We have to have virtual brownies, but yeah.
all right, now I guess we're going to have a little recess
Recess.
for social time. It looks like you have some friends here who might want to chat with or introduce. We're on the president's report, page 14.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Did we need to make that motion? You have it as a motion to appoint Celeste. It's in the agenda. I'm just asking.
That was the,
It was, Joe made the motion, approve as amended, and it was seconded too.
I did that.
Okay. I missed it.
Okay. All right, so we're on to president's report. Questions, comment? So let's see, I wonder if there's anything we need to tell Celeste about how we operate. You don't have to raise your hand. We all try to be respectful, take our turn contributing. If I don't ask you if you have something and you have something, just speak up. What else do we want to say, friends? We just follow the agenda. We will try to take turns making the motions. What else, people?
I would say that we technically follow Robert's Rules of Order loosely. Unless things get heated, then we follow it precisely.
That's true. All right, so if you have any questions, Celeste, say what they are and we'll deal with further questions, okay?
I think Noreen has a question.
I just wanted to introduce myself to Celeste. Celeste, it's nice to meet you. I'm the deputy director and we'll be seeing more of you. So I'm anxious to meet you in person.
Can Gina introduce herself?
Hi, Celeste. I'm Gina. Soy Gina Ornelas y he estado contactándote. Sorry, but we're learning Spanish. Nice meeting you, Celeste.
Meet you both, and thank you, Gina, for the board packet. That was very nice to be able to pick that up this week. I know Ryan had talked about it, but I was very impressed.
You're welcome.
All right, anyone else? If no one has questions about mine, anyone else have a report? Okay, then Ryan, you're up. Page 15 for Ryan's.
I'm not sure that I have anything specific to point out about the executive director's report. The biggest thing I put in the report is that we completed a recruitment process for a community engagement manager. Her name is Maria Nava. We're super excited to have her on the team. I think she'll come to a February board meeting, whether it's committee of the whole or the regular board meeting, so you'll get a chance to meet her soon, hopefully in person. So we're really excited about that, and she's off to a great start. And yeah, so that's the big highlight that I want to point out in the report. This reflects December, and yeah, no, I think that's all I wanted to point out at this point. Any questions about the report? Anything that's in there? Oh, I do want to mention something else. We did receive a FOIA request from AFSCME Council 31. This is a FOIA request we received, I think, back in March of 2021. And one of the things that we want to do is you know, if our, obviously we support the rights of our employees if they want to join the union 100%, that's their right. But we want to make sure that, you know, we also point out the benefits, both sides of the issue as well, because I think there are pros and cons to joining a union, and it's our right as an employer to discuss, you know, what we offer as a non-union place of employment. So I just wanted to point that out, that you know, we'll monitor that, and obviously our employees completely have the right to unionize if they so choose. But we also want to make sure that you have all the information they need to make that choice if the employees decide to go down that road.
Any other questions for Ryan on this part? Okay, we're on to operations and mask update.
Yeah, so as the board is aware, you know, the first week of January, we did make the decision to kind of move into that orange level status in terms of our COVID response plan, where we did decide to at least temporarily move our programs virtual. So we're supposed to start in-person story times. For example, for January, we went back virtual. Adult programming is moved virtual. So obviously the library is still open. We still have services in the library, such as study rooms, computer access, that type of thing. But in terms of bigger in-person gatherings, programs like that, those are not happening right now. It was probably the right call to make. I mean, my biggest concern, I will say, go on record, that I think the Warren Public Library is among the safest indoor environments in our library district that we serve. And, you know, as the board knows, we put in the MERV 13 filtration. We are very diligent about enforcing mask requirements. You know, it's a big place. People spread out. There's a lot of social distancing going on. So I feel the building is safe, but I think with the rise in cases, it was definitely the right call to make, just to be safe. I'm going to go ahead, and since I have the ability to do this, I'm going to pull up the. This is the Northwestern COVID dashboard, and we know that COVID has no boundaries. Can everyone see this? I feel like I lost my screen share there.
Yeah.
Oh, I still have it. Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay. And what I like to do with this, even though COVID has no boundaries, I like to take Gurney and surrounding zip codes just to kind of get a sense of what's going on. Locally, you know, we can look at Region 9 as well, but Region 9 includes both Lake and McHenry County. It seems like McHenry County's numbers are a little bit higher than Lake County. So I like to look at the snapshot. So obviously these numbers are still pretty staggering when you think about, oh gosh, what was it back in November? I think cases per day, we were at like 60, 70 cases per day, and now we're still at around 600 cases. But it's possible that we have peaked, and we're at the top of this surge. And I mean, I'm not making that prediction, who knows with COVID, but I'm trying to be optimistic that, you know, this is the worst of Omicron and things will get better. So I am hopeful that we might be able to return to do in-person story times and in-person adult programming starting, you know, maybe towards the end of the month. You know, we have things like AARP, our partnership with AARP for tax assistance, which is super important. That starts early February. So, you know, I you know, hopefully by then we'll be able to kind of go back where we were and move forward in terms of more of our services in person. So that's the big update. We're worried about staffing. I feel like the first week in January, we were hit with some more staffing issues. We're doing okay now. I do worry that, I knock on wood when I say that, because tomorrow I worry that I'll have 5 employees in one department call out sick, and then we're going to have to get creative about staffing. But we've been managing so far. So any questions about library operations in terms of the mask requirements? I don't think that's been an issue. People are complying. Fortunately, I think people that have decided to challenge us with that have been, we've addressed that issue with them, and either they are, we hand a mask to anyone that comes to the library without one, and those people that are resistant to that, I guess they just decided not to use the library for a while. So.
Okay. Anything else on this? I think of the van.
Yeah, so if you look in your packet on page 27, I asked, because the board wanted to get us to look at more data. Like let's take a deep look at this to see what makes sense. We want to keep putting money into our van, and it was interesting looking at the report that, as you could see, we're averaging about $900 a year, which is a lot to pay for repairs. And we didn't include like oil changes, those types of things that would be included as an expense if we got a brand new van, right? Just these things that are specific to the older van. So I think that based on the age of the van, it's something that as we get into the budget discussion for FY 22-23, that we should have a conversation about and figure out somewhere to put that in our 10-year capital plan. However, I think at this time, it does make sense to continue to operate it. In the meantime, we've started those discussions as I put in the board packet about the, what are our contingency plans if the van does fail and it's a $8,000 repair and it just doesn't make any sense to repair it. What are we going to do? And also the needs for a new vehicle. If we do get a new vehicle, doesn't make sense to get a van like that. Does a minivan or SUV make more sense? Want to go green with this next vehicle that we invest in? So those are the type of things that I need to work with staff to determine, and we'll have that conversation as we get into the budget process. Andrea, you've got a question?
Yeah, the new van is the replacement for the old van. I can't even fathom that you're considering replacing the old van. We've already replaced the old van. The question is, when are we going to get rid of the old van? It's costing us insurance and repairs. The only reason we haven't gotten it is because gotten rid of it is because sometimes currently because of COVID, the bookmobile has been off the road. So the question is not whether to replace the small van. The question is, when are we going to get rid of the small van? The big van was the replacement for the small van.
And I'll second what Andrea is saying a little bit milder. We purchased the small van, what is now called the small van initially.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt.
What we're now calling the small van, it was donated, but it was donated for a purpose. And that purpose was to service our remote collections, our depository collections. That is now the function of our new replacement van. And I have to say, Ryan, if you're saying that we need a second vehicle for service and maintenance, I'm not saying that's not a valid use case, but we'd need to see numbers on how used it is for that use case, why we need a second vehicle to accomplish that use case, and realistically, what would be the ideal vehicle if we wanted a service van for our business. And I understand that there are uses and there are needs for it, and I never want to take something away that staff is using, but this isn't what we agreed to buy, is what it comes down to.
Right. Let's be clear about something. As it states in the board packet, the first question is, if the small van breaks down and cannot be repaired, are we sure we would need to replace this vehicle? Can we clearly demonstrate a need? If I were to come to the board and request money for another vehicle, I would have to clearly demonstrate a need. I'm not saying that at this time. I am just stating right now that we do use both of those vans for multiple purposes. right now. We have utilized a smaller van for some runs that it makes more sense for our maintenance team. And I think it's justified. If the board wants me to further justify continuing operations, that's a different conversation. I'm not saying here to the board, I'm going to put in the capital. I mean, I did say that, but yeah, I should, I don't know, maybe that I could see where you got that impression, like we're definitely putting that 10-year capital plan. No, I completely agree, Andrea and George, with you that the first step before putting a second van in the budget would be to demonstrate the need. We're on the same page with that. So if I'll just end it at that. I don't think we need to have a debate because it's not something I'm asking the board for tonight or necessarily will in the future. I agree. That's the first question that needs to be answered. Can we justify this as a need? Now, Andrea and George, let me ask a question about the report. Do you feel that you need more information to justify continuing to keep the 2010 van on the road?
My question is, I expected the old van to be gotten rid of immediately once we got the new van. And then I started seeing repairs for the old van. I'm like, why do we even have the old van? And now I'm being presented with the old van has a purpose. I feel that, the board voted to replace the old van with the new van, which costs a lot more money. I'm not saying, it's a bigger van, it's got more capability, yet we still haven't jettisoned the old van, which we're paying insurance and repairs on. And, every repair that's 200 and something is more than, plus the insurance. We shouldn't, I don't understand why we have the new van. I was told it was because we have, the bookmobile hasn't been on road all the time because of COVID. So to me, it's not a question, making a case to replace the old van. It's when are we getting rid of the old van? Because, we could have 5 cars and can make reasons for 5 cars.
Yeah, I'll jump in, Ryan. I think this is a great breakdown of the repairs, but the question really is total cost of ownership. How much are we paying per year? Insurance, fuel, oil changes, everything to maintain a second vehicle. And is that cost justified?
Yeah, we would want to look at that compared to the cost of not having the van, because what we did in the past too, when we would need staff to use vehicles when our one van was being used. Say the small van before we had the big van was being used for an outreach visit, whatnot, and our maintenance team needed to go run to get something from the hardware store to fix something. Then the mileage that we have to put in for that. So that's definitely a smaller cost, but I think what you're saying is you want a breakdown of the cost of maintaining the small van versus not, which is a different assignment than unless I might have misunderstood what the board wanted.
And well, that's certainly what I want. I don't know if that's what Andrea is asking for.
Well, I'm thinking if they got to pick up a part, they can take the mileage on their car, pick up the part, and submit an expense report just like I do.
I remember from the past that it was decided that people using their own cars to do the business of the library was not
Right.
Yeah.
That was when they were moving books around. You can't say it's exclusive. What if Ryan has to take a trip to see a seminar or make a presentation? Should then he be using the library's van? Not every trip is going to be in the van. People will still use their vehicles. And for small things, for books and things where you have to have the van and you need to move it, then by all means. But if it's for go pick up a part that's not a big part, you don't need a van, just use the car. Why do we need to maintain a second vehicle for basically errands?
And
that was not what we agreed to,
Ryan,
when we replaced the van. If the old van was still good, why did we get the new van?
And I'll jump in. This van, we all know, is well past its service lifetime. I don't know how safe it is having staff in it, frankly. But that said, I understand we need sometimes to have staff use a library vehicle to transport things. we have the other van. I know we've designed that around the idea of servicing depository collections, and it has rolling bookshelves. Is that all it can do? Are there uses that it cannot do that this old van can do? Do we need another service vehicle? Build the business case around that. Let us know what we need. But I don't want to run this thing to the ground just because we have it. For one thing, because I don't want somebody having to go rescue our staff from wherever it breaks down.
Well, George, I will push back on the safety of the vehicle. I mean, it's not unsafe to drive. I mean, that's a little bit silly to say. It's old and it's past its service life, but it's not unsafe. But no, that's certainly a fair point. Noreen, did you want to say something? Because Noreen has a little, no, okay. So, but I understand your point, and I'll come back with a cost benefit analysis of keeping the, maintaining the 2010 van, and we can talk about that next month. Does that sound good?
And what can we get if we turn it in?
I think it's actually, believe it or not, it's not in the report, but Doug did look into that, and I think I was surprised actually, Andrea, how much we could get. I mean, we can get thousands of, I want to say $8,000 or $9,000, but
And that should be going into the report. I mean, it's costing us money when we can be getting money. We're
Correct.
doing some errands.
Yeah.
Do you want to update this and revisit it next month? Or a committee of the whole?
Sounds like that's a consensus.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to have a decision made next month, because if we keep kicking the can down the road a month, and now we've got 6 more months. Because it's already been 6 months at least since I first asked the question, which was last spring or summer.
Okay, are we ready to move on to 3013? Okay, so this one has a new copy, different from the one that's in the packet. The packet one is on page 30. This was kind of a last minute, somehow it got lost in the shuffle. And so I tried to edit it on the day the packet was going out, and I put in a change, and I think I rejected it instead of accepting it. And then Noreen caught it. And so that's what the one that was sent out later is. So Noreen, if you want to explain the changes.
Okay, they mostly revolve around, I think we talked about it before, the fact that we were going to implement NCOA, which is the National Change of Address System, which will allow us to not have to have an actual expiration date for a card. They were like at 3 years, you had to come in and do that. And that was something that really bothered our patrons a lot, that they had to, that had to be remembered to take care of. So the National Change of Address System was implemented this last month. And once it was up and running, we have a lot of little things to do with how we're going to change the data in our system, but we're ready to go. So there was the only things that we pulled were we pulled anything that referred to the expiration of a card. And then in the last Article 10, we just changed the word in the second sentence from a replacement fee will be charged to may be charged. That gives a little bit of leeway for if a patron comes to the front desk and has a really valid reason for having to get a new card, not charging them, and giving some power to the circulation clerks to determine if it's an exceptional case. So those were the only changes. And the National Change of Address is up and running, and it's pulled up quite a few things that we're going to be cleaning up. And it's really, we can determine if the patrons are still in our district, but just moved to a different house in the district. So then obviously we wouldn't get rid of their card. And we can put information into all of the patrons who we change, a specific statement about that. You know, we realized there's something about that, you know, you're in a different home. That's why we changed your thing, but you're still in the district. So it's a very nice tool, and I think it's going to make everybody happy, especially patrons who didn't like to have to do that. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, who would like to make the motion?
So just to clarify, Joe.
Yeah.
The correct version is the one that came out that is called Final 2. Is that correct?
I'd have to look at, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. I thought Noreen was going to change that because I sent it twice.
I
also-
move that the, can I
I'm
do the
sorry.
motion?
Yeah, I also noticed that the motion says personnel policy, which isn't.
I move that the board policy 3013 library card be approved as presented.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Hamilton,
Oh, aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Farcapisi,
Aye.
Flores,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Beckwith,
Aye.
ayes have it.
On to the semi-annual review. So Celeste, twice a year, we have to look at the minutes of executive sessions and decide if any can be open to the public. And then any recordings that are 18 months or older are automatically discarded. That's a Open Meetings Act requirement. And the one in the packet, I sent out a text. The one in the packet has one, it's supposed to be, it says open to the public, the one for November 16th, that was a mistake. And so this one that was sent out later is the correct one. Did I get that right, Bonnie?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Okay, I move that the board accept the semi-annual review of closed session minutes as amended.
I second that.
Any further discussion? Okay, Gina.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Farcapisi,
Aye.
Hamilton,
Aye.
Flores,
Aye.
Beckwith,
Aye.
ayes have it.
Okay. Approval of the board roster. I don't think there's any mistakes on this one.
What a meeting to have.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna say, this is not typical, Celeste, really, it isn't.
That's why I keep laughing.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, I move that the board ratify the current board roster for filing.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Okay, Gina.
Flores.
Aye.
Excuse me.
Aye.
Farcapisi,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Hamilton,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Beckwith,
Aye.
ayes have it.
Okay, we're on to vaccinations, page 36, 37. You want to explain, Ryan?
Yeah, so even if we decide not to change things, we do need to update the policy. So when one of the questions that when we talked about how to handle vaccinations and for Celeste, so you know the way what this policy basically says is that with the COVID-19 vaccination, staff are either required to be fully vaccinated, or in lieu of that, have to get tested weekly and provide a negative COVID test to the library. And at the time, it was our understanding that Illinois law told us that we had to pay for it. Where apparently it's that our understanding legally now is that we don't have to pay for tests except if someone is unvaccinated and they're unvaccinated for medical reasons or religious exemption. So this was going to be brought to the board anyway to talk about that. But then we learned that our testing, which as I remember the board, we didn't budget for this. We didn't talk about this during budget season. The cost was going to do more than double, increase from $49 to $116. We have very few staff that are unvaccinated right now. But even with that, a weekly test, I feel that I'm worried about the sustainability of this anyway. But now that it's under $16, I just don't think that it's realistic for us to continue to pay that expense unless we need to because someone has a medical exemption or religious exemption. I do believe that people should have the right to choose whether they want to get vaccinated or not. I think it's very clear it's definitely the right choice unless someone can't do it for medical reasons. The science is 110% clear on this. But still, we want to give employees the right to make that decision for themselves. Although it's unfortunate that I would be, asking staff to pay for that themselves. It's not our obligation to pay for that. And it's a condition of employment. So I wanted to consult with the board on this and get the board's thoughts on making this change, because it would be a change. So we would be asking staff that are unvaccinated, if they're not going to get vaccinated, to still do the weekly testing, but it would be at their own expense unless they have a valid medical or religious exemption.
Can I ask a question, Ryan?
Sure.
So are we talking about going to a facility and having a PCR test rather than the rapid tests that are being given now through the government for free?
Bonnie, that's the question we'd have to work out. I mean, once we decide, that's something we're still working out. Like, okay, well, are we going to give guidelines to what test is acceptable or not? That's the piece that we honestly we still haven't worked out.
So is the $116 one, what is that, a nasal swab, or is it what kind is it? Why is
it is a nasal swab rapid response. I actually
really?
I'm fully vaccinated, but the vendor we work with the vendor at Gurney Mills Mall who we vetted, and they gave us some trials for us to try for Jen Boy, our HR manager, myself, to try it, because I thought if I'm going to ask staff to do this, I want to see what it's like and see what the experience is like. So the idea is you book online, you have to make an appointment online, and then you go to Gurney Mills. You don't have to leave your car. It's outside of where the Chicago Wood Fire Pizza is. The parking lot, if you go, there's a van. It's kind of a weird looking deal, but you drive up, they do the nasal swab. It's not too bad, and they pretty quickly email you your test result. What we liked about this is we got an email indicating the result, as did the employee. So then we knew immediately if someone was tested positive that they weren't going to be able to work. So that's the way it works, and that's the vendor that we decided to use for all kinds of reasons.
So that test has documentation, whereas one that you do it yourself at home has no documentation.
Right.
Correct. You would need a proctored test.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'll chime in my opinion. If we're paying it, then I can see us telling them where to go and what test to get. If it's out of the employee's pocket, I think that they should have more freedom to choose where they go. That said, I think that we're past the point where we should be paying it for most people. There are plenty of places around here where you can get a test at zero cost with your insurance.
Right.
I don't think that is a tremendous burden to staff at this point. I mean, there's one right across the street from my house. You drive up, they test you, they get you get an email later that day. And it's all covered, zero cost.
Is it covered though on a weekly basis? Because that's the requirement, right? If someone isn't vaccinated for other than medical or religious reasons, they need to test weekly.
Right.
And that I can't answer, because that depends on what vendor you go with and what your insurance pays for.
I do think the documentation is important, though.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
But that documentation is available from multiple vendors. That's, though the one we've chosen will send it direct to us, which is helpful. Forwarding an email is not exactly difficult.
Yeah, but you can doctor them in email that you forward.
At some point, you have to trust your people.
I've-
I could certainly see that there's a motivation for someone to change a test. It's not if they're paying for it, keep using the same email over and over again and changing dates because they have a conflict of interest. From an audit standpoint, from somebody who that would really not be what it is absolutely no evidence whatsoever.
So a question that I have around this is when the vaccination program started for COVID, vaccinating actually did, in most cases or in a lot of cases, reduce the incidence of COVID. But with Omicron, that's actually not the case any longer. It can reduce the severity, but there's so many breakthrough cases. So being vaccinated really isn't any guarantee that you're free from COVID. So does it even make sense to have a policy like this?
The better question is, should we be requiring staff to get boosters?
Well, even if you have a booster, the incidence of breakthrough cases is high.
But much lower with a recent booster.
Well, and I think the other piece of that puzzle, at least at my school, is now if you do get Omicron and have been boosted, your time of feeling ill is much less. And so that means your work day, you can return to work sooner than 10 days. Now it's 5 days. So, I think that's the bonus maybe of having a vaccination and boost. But who knows what the next variant will look like? I don't know.
Ryan, can I just bring us back to Ryan? What do you need from us on this before we go off too far?
Well, I think that, at the end of the day, we need to make a decision about this policy in terms of the cost of the test. Because I think that it's still certainly the way I want to go operationally in terms of either having staff be required to be fully vaccinated, which George, I think does include the booster at this point, or in lieu of that, get a weekly test. Because I think that it still is, Wendy, you're right. There's no guarantees with especially with Omicron, but I still think that it's another mitigation to help. Not that I think we've learned there's no silver bullet here with COVID.
So Ryan, it's $109 per test for how many tests? How many people need the test?
I believe that we are at 5 unvaccinated staff.
So 109 times 5 is $545 a week times a 10-week period is, $5,450. So for a year, that's
Significant.
$25,000.
Yeah, it's a lot of money when you do the math, that's for
It's
sure.
a lot of money. So, I think that it's up to employees. They have to find, because we can't afford it. We've afforded it as long as we can. If they don't want, if they don't want to get vaccinated, that's their choice. But then they're going to have to find a place that will email. Our staff doesn't have to do it. They'll have to be on leave. They can take vacation, whatever the policy is. They don't get paid until they find a place that they can afford, that can send us directly the email that they've passed the test. Because why should our staff spend hours and hours trying to find the right place They have every right to not take the test. I support not take the vaccination. I support them in that, but now they have to pay the consequences rather than us. We can no longer afford that burden. And if they don't have the test, they can't report to work. That's how I feel about it.
I'm in agreement.
Look at what the policy says then. Do
Right.
you think that the part where it says provide proof of a negative test is really what we mean?
I mean, you might clarify not a home self-test.
By an independent third party.
Yeah, with verified results or something.
Does our policy currently say that we pay for it? I believe it might.
Yeah, that's why it's in.
That's why we're doing this.
on
Yeah.
page- It's
Yeah,
page
I can
38,
share it. I'll share
top
it.
of the page.
Plus, I wouldn't
The way it's written
make
in
something
the,
effective immediately. There should be a phase-in program.
honestly, I think the way that we've written this with that one edit should be sufficient. It allows Ryan sufficient latitude to make those determinations.
And the part that says proof of test is on the prior page.
Yep.
Proof of vaccination on an approved reasonable, yeah.
Okay, so everyone's satisfied with the language then?
Ryan, how do you plan to enforce this though? Are we going to have to have an independent third party?
Yeah, you know, there are other libraries that are doing this, and they're basically not they don't have the relationship we have. So I probably will model it after those libraries. And my plan is, yes, to have a independent third party, so to speak, share those results with us. That's what I would be looking for as well.
Does it help you enforce that or keep that expectation if we put it in writing? How can we make it easier for you?
I mean, perhaps we could add it to the policy. I mean, if I think either way, I'm comfortable. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be an issue one way or the other, Catherine. But
okay, I'm fine if you're fine.
Yeah, right.
I think the language as is adequate. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Everyone feel comfortable with that? Anyone have anything else to add before someone makes a motion?
Okay, then I move that Personnel Policy 503 vaccinations be approved as presented.
I'll second that. Okay, Gina. Any further discussion? All right, okay, Gina.
Arnold,
Aye.
Hamilton,
Aye.
Flores,
Aye.
Parcapisi,
Aye.
Otsinis,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, resolution for paid sick leave, that's page 49.
Yeah. And Joe, if I could, you know, kind of set the stage for this, this I put together. I don't necessarily know if we want to go with the dates I put in or not. Those are kind of just placeholders, or if the board even wants to adopt this resolution. If some board members will recall that early on with the COVID-19 pandemic, we realized that this was going to put a burden on staff, particularly part-time staff that didn't receive paid sick leave if they were struck with COVID or they had to take care of a family member with COVID. So the board adopted this resolution multiple times. We extended it, and then when the vaccines became readily available, we discontinued this practice. It's one of those things that a lot of staff asked me to bring to the board because they were concerned with this Omicron variant. Whereas even though quarantine times are shorter, people are vaccinated. Still, if in your family you get sick with COVID, you've got multiple people in your household that get sick. All of a sudden, if you're in a you've got to care for either children or someone elderly in your family. You've drained sick time, and in the case of part-time staff that don't have sick benefits, they don't have the sick time. So it's just something I wanted to bring to the board for discussion. The other thing that this might lead us to is there are some organizations that are moving towards a paid sick leave for all part-time staff, and the way that works is that this will require change of our policy. Not something we're discussing tonight, but something to perhaps discuss in the future if the board thinks it's a good idea. Paid sick leave, where it would be for that duration of time. So someone that works 10 hours a week, they would get 10 hours of sick leave for the year, and if they didn't use it at the end of the year, they would lose it. It's not like someone that's on IMRF that they think the sick leave it carries over. So there would be a cost to the library for that, but I do think it would be not significant. I think a lot of times when staff like that are part-time that call in and sick, a lot of times if we get someone to cover their hours, we get someone to cover their hours. So there's that expenditure already a lot of the time. So it's something for the board to consider that would kind of address not having to bring this resolution up again. But I thought this is here for discussion and to see what the board thinks. I talked to talking to Jen Hoyer, Human Resources Manager. This hasn't been an issue for any staff so far. So, if anything, this is just being proactive. Maybe this isn't an issue, but I wanted to bring it to the board for us to have a discussion.
Is there a typo in section 1? We have January 19th, 2021.
Yes, that is a typo.
Okay.
Thank you, Catherine.
Can I ask maybe the obvious question from our previous conversation? Unvaccinated staff, are they also eligible for this?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, you might have heard something in the news today. There's a bill that about teachers getting unlimited sick leave that was passed. I think it had bipartisan support that the Governor Pritzker has said he's going to veto if it comes to his desk because he has an issue with providing unlimited sick leave for people that have decided not to get vaccinated. So maybe, I don't know if that's an issue for this board or not, but that is I guess a consideration here.
I'll chime in on that one. We want sick leave for people, not for their benefit, but for everyone else's. It is something that helps the rest of staff because otherwise people are incentivized to come to work when they're sick. And that's how you spread diseases.
That's fair.
So
I agree.
Thank you, George. That's a good point.
I would love to see a sick leave policy for all of our staff. We can talk about that in the future. For now, I'm okay with this with the change of date to 2022. Let's
Other
get this back
thoughts?
in the books.
People who haven't contributed?
I'm okay with furthering the temporary measure. I would really want, if we were to consider a full-time measure, I would want to look at that in an entirely different way.
Yeah, that would be an entirely different discussion. Let's leave that off the table for now.
Right.
Okay, anyone else? So whoever's going to make the motion needs to make it as amended because the date will be changed from what's in the packet. Isn't that right, Ryan?
Correct.
Or who would like?
I'll move. I move that the board adopt resolution 2021-2022-5, resolution authorizing temporary allocation of paid sick leave for part-time employees as amended.
I'll second, Catherine.
Discussion? Okay, Gina.
Sutton,
Aye.
Farkapisi,
Aye.
Flores. Flores. Hamilton. Thank you. Hamilton,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, wage scale page 52, you want to explain, Ryan? Just so-
Yeah, when we review this wage scale in June of 2021, this was in conjunction with the budget that the board passed. And as you will recall, the board passed a budget with 2% merit increases. It was a November discussion of the board when I came to the board and indicated, I think that we should consider an up to 5% merit increase for staff based on the tremendously high cost of things. I think everyone is aware that inflation is what was this? Is it 7% now in December maybe? So the board voted and approved that change, knowing that we could sustain it within our existing budget. But what we didn't overlook it because we actually updated the wage scale policy, but what we overlooked is to bring this to the board to have the board adopt this policy in conjunction with that 5%. So basically, all of this wage scale policy 2040 does is reflect what you already voted on in terms of the 5% merit increases for staff, and also raising the bottom levels up to comply with the minimum wage increase. Any questions about this?
I'll continue to raise the question that I've raised before. I know this is not the time for it, but we really need to strongly consider realigning some of these pay grades and adopting a flatter structure, given that things are changing in that direction.
Yeah, and George, thanks for bringing that up, because one of the things I intend to bring to the board as we discuss the budget for next fiscal year is the idea of working with someone to look at our compensation for staff and perhaps our job descriptions as well, because I completely agree with you. It's something that needs to be addressed.
Okay, who would like to make the motion?
I move that the board policy 2040 wage scale be approved as presented.
I'll second that. Discussion? Okay, Gina.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Hamilton,
Aye.
Flores,
Aye.
Arnold,
Hi.
Farkapisi,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, 4030, which is FOIA. You want to explain that one too, Ryan?
Yeah, this is something we update on a pretty regular basis. So the Freedom of Information Act, that's how to explain it. There's training for it, but essentially it means that we're a transparent organization, that if people want to make a request of information from us, we will share that information. As I pointed out earlier in the executive director's report, asked for some information from us about our employees, their status, and we obviously by law we share that. So this I believe this is something we are required to update annually, and it answers some of those questions that someone might want to know about us in terms of FOIA, and it outlines the way the FOIA process works, how to request information from us, that type of thing. So
Can I add something to that?
please do, Joe.
So we do it once a year for a couple reasons. One is that it has the full budget amount, so we try to do it right after the budget has been passed, so that number is accurate. And also we all are always looking at how many employees, because that's kind of a moving target as well.
Yeah.
And also if you look at the top on page 54, it lists all the trustees. And so that's why it's in front of us now, because we've had a change of trustee.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Does this mean I don't have to do this one later, Joe?
No, because
No.
the budget
I'm just
change,
teasing.
You're just trying to wriggle out of it. Okay, I move that the board approve policy 4030 FOIA as presented.
I'll second.
Question? Okay, Gina.
Flores,
Aye.
Hamilton,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Farkapisi,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Bond levy.
Yeah, this is something we do annually. So the board, library back in, I believe it was 2010. It was a little bit before my time, 2010, borrowed some money to do for the last library renovation, which was circa 2011. We were able to refinance that and save the library some money by reissuing the bonds in FY 2019-2020. And this is part of that process because we abate the bond debt because we essentially pay for that out of our corporate fund. So this is something that is done annually until the debt is paid off, which is 2029, 2030. I look forward to that day when the money that we pay out of the corporate fund to pay for the debt service will actually be money we don't have to pay for debt, and we can use it for other purposes. So.
All right, questions? Who would like to make this motion, please?
I move that the board adopt ordinance 2021-2022-7, an ordinance abating bond debt service levy for the year 2021.
Second.
Discussion? All right, Gina.
Sorry, my microphone. Farkapisi,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Hamilton,
Aye.
Flores,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, monthly financials.
All right, does anybody have any questions?
Maybe we should explain to Celeste that this isn't normally when this happens. Andrea, could you kind of fill her in on that?
Okay, well, I'll start at the beginning. The board is required to approve the financial statements every month, and then they are published to the public. So we can have full transparency what's going on in our library financially. So we get a rather large board. The financial statements and supporting documentation are probably more than most library and boards get. But that was the way when I took over, and I like them. So so I look over them every month just to see if there's anything that needs to be changed, or we have questions about are we overspending or things like that. And the board asked Ryan questions. We are not trying to say gotcha questions. It's just information so that we can fulfill our fiduciary duty that the library is staying within the budget we set. So does anybody have any questions?
This is George. I only had one, and that's on the variance report, line 53030.
Page 62 of the packet.
Yes. My question, Ryan, and I'm asking about, we're below budget on this item. The back ordered computers show as a close to $10,000 savings. Does that mean we never received those computers and therefore we're below budget because we're missing a $10,000 payment?
We recently received, George, let me get more details on that. We recently received some computers because we were replacing some computers that have been back ordered for some time due to supply chain issues. So let me get clarification on what exactly that
Yeah,
means.
I'm just trying to understand if that means we're $2,000 positive this month, but we'll be $8,000 negative next month.
Yeah, it's a little unclear. I'm unclear by that as well. So thanks for pointing that out.
I have a question too, or actually a comment. I think something needs to be corrected. Oh, and I forgot, I didn't even answer Joe's question. So we normally do this at our committee of the whole meeting on the first of the month So January, the first Tuesday in January, we would have done November because 2 days just isn't enough to do December statements. So because we didn't do it at the committee of the whole, we're doing it here. And then it gets on the following month's agenda as to approve the statements. So I do have a question on page 71. So under the bond fund, it's on page 71 and also on page 70. The bond fund, it looks like we put in a little over half when that was the first bond payment. So we got the 660,375, which was money moved from the main fund to the bond fund. But then we have, we paid principal of 435,000 and we paid interest of 118,125, which is a little bit higher than the next payment, which is, I believe, in May, because as everybody knows, as you pay down principal, you pay less interest, which leaves 107,250. Well, that's not enough to make the May payment. So more money should be moved into the bond fund to cover the May payment and reissue, have these statements corrected before we approve them on, well, we can't approve them today.
Yeah, I know that we had talked about making sure that we did one transfer to cover the fiscal year. So let me investigate and see what happened with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, 107 may be the second interest payment, but we also need the other principal payment.
Right. Yeah, let me find out what's going on with that, Andrea.
So this is going to go on the February regular agenda then.
Yeah, along with the December statements as well. So I would like to see the November statements corrected, and then also the same correction will be under
So
December.
can we put those in the February CW then?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that concludes my financial statements. If anybody doesn't have any more questions. Of course, we will be starting budgeting season again. I know it feels like we just finished.
It always does.
So for our new board members, Wendy and Celeste, we like to have our budget process finished, approved, buttoned up before the start of the next fiscal year in July, which means we start our process in February identifying capital improvements. The staff works very hard to present us with improvements they'd like to see, get our input, and plus eliminating everything we can because we have a very tight budget. Oh, seek and ye shall find. I turn the finance committee over to Ryan.
Well, no, it's the next item on the agenda. I thought you were segueing nicely.
Oh, I wasn't.
She was.
Well, it's just that time of year.
Yeah, so this is a timeline that I think we've used the last maybe 3-4 years. Yeah, and Andrea's right. This is I love budget season. I know that I'm in the alone with that. I mean, it's going to be a tough year for budgeting because if you think about the last levy that's happened, you're always a year behind in Illinois. So the next levy will be able to levy up to that 5% increase, but that won't keep up with inflation costs, and we're experiencing those costs now. For example, we got a letter from our cleaning service, and they said, we're requesting that we increase your, I want to say it was like a 7% increase, and they had just increased us before, and so it was a request, and I said, listen, we can talk about this at the beginning of a fiscal year, but we didn't budget for this increase. So they respected that, and they're holding off on an increase cleaning costs. And I know that they're just like everyone else, you know, and that's going to happen with all of our vendors, I'm sure, as we look at prepare the budget next year. We're budgeting. We're going to see these increases across the board, and our revenue is not going to go up accordingly. So it's going to be a really tough budget year. Just to kind of put that in the heads of the board. So the way I'm proposing that we do it is that the February committee of the whole, in about, what is it, about 3 weeks, 2 weeks, we'll have start to look at our 10-year capital plan and the capital projects that we think we might want to look at doing this upcoming fiscal year. We'll continue that conversation. We'll get into the big overall budget in April, continue those conversations. And then, as Andrea pointed out, we like to keep this tight. We like to have our budget finalized before we get into the fiscal year, you know, so that June regular board meeting. So that's hopefully, is this agreeable to everybody in terms of the timeline?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Board self-evaluation. So it's time. We've skipped it. Did we skip it twice? I guess I want to ask, who is able to drive this year?
Joe, could you give us a little background, Celeste and myself on?
Yeah, so once a
processes?
year, we do a board self-evaluation. There is a binder of documentation. We've used surveys in the past. You can make it as formal or informal as you'd like. And then what we do is it takes, I don't know, what would you say, people, 3 meetings or so?
2 to 3, depending.
Yeah, 2 to 3, I'd say, because you know, send out a survey, and sometimes a pair of people has done it in the past too, but there's plenty of documentation for it. And then we agree on 2 or 3 goals for the year. The last couple years, of course, with all the shutdown and virtual meetings, we just basically put it aside. And so one option would be, if we don't think we can fully go back to 3 goals, we could choose at least 1 or 2, so that we would have something specific in mind for our own work outside of meetings, I guess I would say. What does anyone else want to add to that?
I'll speak up. I know that we've done this before, and Joe and I have driven this on many occasions. I'm more than happy to help with the survey and compiling survey results as usual. It's just a question of finding out what people want us to do. What are our goals going to be? And I'm sure we'll have a lot of input from our new board members, as well as those of us who've been here for a while.
Looks like it might be you and me, George.
I'm happy to help with it or make it
Spearhead.
happen.
I
But I'll need some guidance.
appreciate that, but since you've never gone through it, I'm kind of wondering, I don't know. I think it might
Or,
be, what if you and I did it together?
sure, that
That's
would be
okay.
wonderful.
All right, so I went and took there's a binder in the board cabinet.
Okay.
Have you ever been in the boardroom?
Yeah.
Right, yes, once
So in
in August.
the board has a locked cabinet where we can keep certain materials, and that binder is in there. And I went the other day and took it out so that whoever wound up doing it could stop by the library and pick it up. So I'll go back and pick it up, and then I'll contact you.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. All right, so board self-evaluation is Wendy and Joe. Okay, items for February regular agenda or CW?
Not so much for regular agenda or CW, but a reminder that the legislative meetup is coming up. And if you haven't registered, now's a good time.
Yeah, I'll just say I have to work that morning, so I cannot do it. So,
I will be attending. If anybody else can, please do.
I signed up.
Yeah, it's free, it's virtual. You don't, you just have to, if you're available, if you're not working, it's a good opportunity.
It's really interesting. I have been able to go in the past, but I haven't the last few years, and it always is really interesting. I will say that.
I do have it listed on my calendar, but I don't know if I signed up yet, so I'll have to double check.
Okay, anyone want to speak in public forum?
Oh,
Can I say
sorry,
something,
Joe,
Carol?
Yeah,
Oh.
please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Catherine.
you can go first.
I just wanted to say that I hope everybody is doing well. I know that this is challenging times, and I've been thinking about you and keeping you in my thoughts and prayers. And I just wanted to also mention that last week, I'm not sure if it was like that for you, but at our place at the library, it was probably the toughest week
Yep.
we've had in the whole time I've been there. And I'm going to say it again, 30 years I've been there. So it was just very difficult. Things came to, people were having trouble getting staff. Staff were having to stay out. We had 6 staff. Ryan was extremely kind and generous in providing us with the outlets and meetings to get it out. And it was very healthy and it felt really good, but it just reminded us of how long and exhausting this has been. And I know this has been that way for you too. So I've been thinking about that, but it was just very tough, very tough. I, talked to managers, I talked to, we had people, just needing to cry, needing to let it out. And besides all of those things that we're going through with COVID, people have other things that they're dealing with from at home and just trying to make things work. So, but it was very fortunate for us that we work in a place where we know that we have such an excellent board who supports us, and we had Ryan there to say to let us let it out. So it was tough, and I think I'm feeling better this week. Everybody is, I think. I've talked to some managers, and they are, they all I think out of the 5 that report to me, I think 3 of them told me that they took this last weekend as kind of just kick back, take care of themselves weekend. So make sure you're doing that for yourselves too. And I keep you in my thoughts.
Thank you, Eva.
I'll just add to that. I went back to work today. I'm a librarian at the College of Lake County, and they decided to postpone face-to-face classes to not starting today, but starting next week. It was like
A relief.
no, it was like a ghost town. It
Oh.
was so. All the hybrid classes and remote classes are going, but it was so odd to be there like that. I mean, even during the pandemic, the traffic there was low, but it was so odd. It was unsettling, I'll say. It was really
I'll just piggyback on both of your comments. I've been, feeling desensitized to it all, that, I pretty much just go to work at home, and I only work with 5 other people. So I'm insulated to a big degree, but one of the aunts in our family died of COVID a week and a half ago. And so I do encourage everybody to stay vigilant, that we can't become complacent, and be careful. There is a reason why we're remote. There is a real reason we're doing all of these things. And I've been very lucky. This is the first person that I've known that has died.
okay.
Well,
Now-
let me jump in and on behalf of the community and thank the hard work you guys are doing, and say to Celeste, so glad that you're on the board. Great to see you there. Yeah, we've had in our family a couple losses to COVID and the challenges. So I really appreciate it when you guys are hanging in there, and when the library continues to be a haven for some people. So thank you.
Thank
Thanks, Mike, our fan club.
Mike, I'll share those words with the staff. Thank you for sharing that. And Noreen, thank you for those kind words, Noreen. Noreen is as much empathy as I try to show to staff. I think Noreen shows that tenfold. So she's a great partner to have an admin. And I mean, it was a rough week last week, and maybe I should have mentioned the director's report, but I mean, I think we're dealing with it okay, but yeah, it's a lot of people are struggling. And I think the thing with even if it's not a direct COVID indirectly impacts so many things. So, you know, things are just harder for people when they're going through things because of COVID is somehow impacting one or the others. We're surviving and looking out for each other.
Okay, any other announcements then? Oh, boy.
Joe, just going back, you had the 2 policies for CW.
Let me see what I got written down. No, I do not have those.
1040 and 3057. And Andrea, did you want to do one finance one this month, or do you just want to do all of them together?
Do all of them together. Sit down with Wendy.
Just send them to her.
I'll do,
The first 3/100s of personnel policies.
I'll do track changes.
And also, Bonnie, I was thinking today, now that Celeste is appointed, the vacancy and appointment notifications, do you know what I'm talking about?
I
Those
do.
have to be done ASAP.
Put it on my list.
Okay. Thank you.
Ryan, quick question. Would we be able to get an update on the bottle filler at the next committee of the whole meeting?
Oh, yeah, we could do that. In fact, it might even be on our notes to update. Yeah.
It's on the list, yeah. All right, who would like to move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I'll
I
second that.
second. I think we all second it.
Have to have a roll call, Gina.
Who's second first?
I did.
Bonnie.
Okay. Arnold,
Aye.
Parcapisi,
Aye.
Flores,
Aye.
Hamilton,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
All right, thank you, everyone. We can't
Thank
wait.
Stay safe.
Celeste.
Stay
Welcome.
safe.
Welcome.